What's up everyone, Kaiju no Kami here, and it's that time of the year again. Time for my top 10 best and worst movies of the year. Let's kick this list off with my best movies, and save the worst for later.
Number 10.
Kicking off the list is a movie that I missed in theaters and saw on video and was pleasantly surprised with how enjoyable it was, and that is Upgrade. It was fun, it was engaging, it's what Venom should have been, which, okay, honestly, I have not actually seen Venom yet, so I shouldn't say that, but based on the plot scenarios between the two, they're identical, and Upgrade, I'm sure, did it a hell of a lot better based on what I've seen of Venom. It's basically a guy who gets a microchip implanted into his body to help make movements because he's paralyzed, and a lot of kick-ass stuff happens. It's a really well done cyberpunk movie that asks questions that should have been done in Ghost in the Shell, once again showing that everyone can make a better Ghost in the Shell movie than the people who made an actual Ghost in the Shell movie. If you have not seen Upgrade, definitely check it out.
Number 9.
I'm not usually a rom-com fan, but I gotta say Crazy Rich Asians was crazy good. It was entertaining, it was funny, the comedy worked. When it needed to be dramatic, it worked that in quite well. It was well written, none of the characters were at all pointless. Every character served a purpose to the plot. Even though it followed some of the rom-com tropes, I highly enjoyed it, and it may be one of the best rom-coms ever. In fact, it probably is the best rom-com ever, since I usually can't stand rom-coms.
Number 8.
I walked into the original Wreck-It Ralph movie with low expectations and absolutely loved it. It broke everything I expected out of it. Thus, I was a little bit skeptical on Ralph Breaks the Internet. Nevertheless, Ralph Breaks the Internet is definitely number 8 on my list because I did enjoy it. It had so many great tropes in there that it made fun of, it mocked. It might have stepped a little bit away from the video game aspect. Not too much, it still does have that in there, especially with the online game aspect. It excelled of what I expect from Disney sequels, since usually their sequels are more hits than misses. But they knew what they were doing here. They took their time to make a well thought out sequel that worked.
Number 7.
2018 was a good year for horror movies. There were a lot of solid horror films released this year. Some in theaters, some direct-to-video. A Quiet Place is one of those films that really excelled at what it was trying to be. It was interesting, it had a great use of sound, or rather, it had a great use of silence, and it's just a pleasant memory because when we're in the theater watching this movie, everyone's all and the movie starts, and everything's quiet, all of a sudden you hear like, as if everyone just knew to be quiet right then and there. It was interesting because it didn't go through all this exposition to build up the plot. It just pretty much threw you right in the middle of things. You had some newspaper articles lying around that they gave you a quick moment to actually look at the headlines so that you can get a sense for yourself what was going on and going, oh, okay, I know where they're at and this is where we're going. Cool. I don't need anything else. It showed that comedians can do horror movies. And that actually is a couple times that happened this year. But let's get on to my next one.
Number 6.
This was a good year for superhero movies. This was a good year for animated movies, especially if your name was Spider-Man. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse was a good time. It was a really well done Spider-Man comic brought to the big screen. The animation might have been at times hit or miss, but Miles Morales was a really interesting character. It kind of makes me wish I knew a little bit more about him in the comics, and maybe at some point I want to go out and get those comics, even though I don't really like the universe they're part of. The movie was fun, engaging. I loved the depiction they did of Spider-Gwen and of the Peter Parkers they brought into this movie. Some of the designs were kind of iffy. I didn't care for Kingpin's design, but the writing was there, the music was there. Overall, it was a really good time, fun, engaging. All the Spider-Mans were very talkative, the way they should be when they're in battle. One of the better Spider-Man movies out there, and it's kind of a shame that some people wrote it off just because it's animated. Your loss, as I said in the Batman Mask of the Phantasm review, who cares if it's animated? What matters most of all is the quality of writing, and the quality of writing is there. Congratulations, Sony. You've got yourself something you can probably take advantage of in the Spider-Man universe. Maybe you should do that with all your Spider-Man characters. Instead of making Morbius a live-action movie, make it animated like that. Just saying. Either way, Spider-Man and the Spider-Verse definitely deserves its praises for being the best animated movie of 2018.
Number 5.
Now, this is where the list starts getting hard because these top 5 movies could have been in any order, but I went with the order I did because you know what? This is the order that satisfies me the most, with number 5 being Avengers Infinity War. I absolutely love this movie. It had the build-up that we have been waiting for 10 years. Well, technically 6 years if you just count from when we first saw Thanos in the Avengers. But either way, it was just a fun, well-rounded, engaging movie. Thanos was very, very awesome. He was well developed. You could see his viewpoints and why he thought the way he did, which is not something that happens all the time in a superhero movie, even when they do have villains in there. This was actually a super villain movie that happened to have the heroes in it, and the rewards were so worth it. There was so much payoff for what we have watched over the last several years building into this movie, and it came out great. This is hands down one of the best superhero movies of all time, and I cannot wait to see what happens in Endgame.
Number 4.
Next on the list is BlacKkKlansman. Just like Crazy Rich Asians, this movie knew exactly when it needed to be funny and when it exactly needed to be serious. It's just all around with actors that are doing a wonderful job. You can tell they're enjoying themselves as they're doing it, especially Denzel Washington's son. Not that Adam Driver was anything less, because Adam Driver was just as good, with Topher Grace portraying perhaps his best role yet, which is kind of sad because he was playing a white supremacist, racist man, and that's his best role. Might not be all the points towards Topher Grace, but considering that I absolutely do not care for him as an actor, this movie made me really think he can have great acting abilities when he is really, really trying. The film had a great message going on. You got to see the good and bad to both sides. Like, obviously the white supremacists, the KKK, they're in the wrong no matter what because they're racist. But you got a little bit to see into their thinking and why they actually think this. Same with like the Black Power side. You understand where they're coming from and why they're doing this, but at the same time you can see where their methods are not exactly being done the right way. It's just all around a great movie and one of the best of the year, obviously, since it's on my best list.
Number 3.
You know, it's funny, I was just praising how Infinity War is hands down one of the best superhero movies, and then I have a superhero movie that's above Infinity War on this list, which means, is this better than Infinity War? Maybe, maybe not, but I did enjoy Black Panther just as much as Infinity War because it is a spy thriller, a James Bond-like movie with superheroes in it. It also helps that, while not as developed as Thanos was, the villain Killmonger was highly developed. You saw his motivations. Everything in the film was engaging. It was interesting. Getting to see the world of Wakanda was quite unique from other superhero movies. There are some aspects that do take its cues from the other MCU films, but when you mix it together with what Black Panther did, with its spy aspect, you come out with a really golden movie. So definitely keep it up, Marvel. It shows that even when you are like 16, 17 movies into your franchise, you can still keep them going. Oh, and Chadwick Boseman is just perfect as T'Challa.
Number 2.
I fought a lot with my top 2 choices, going back and forth between which one was going to be number 1 and which one was going to be number 2. But in the end, I just had to choose to do this video. So I am going to go with number 2 is Bad Times at the El Royale. This Quentin Tarantino-esque movie was very engaging, very thought-provoking. There's a lot of mystery and intrigue going on with this movie. Just when you think something's going to happen, it takes a turn for it. There's characters that you thought were going to have bigger roles in the movie, end up having small ones, and characters that you thought were just going to be a small nobody ends up having really important scenes to the film. It's just all around a really thought-provoking, well-rounded, engaging movie. If you love The Hateful Eight, you're definitely going to enjoy this.
Honorable mentions.
My honorable mentions for this year are Deadpool 2, A Simple Favor, Hereditary, Incredibles 2, and Aquaman.
Number 1.
And my favorite movie of 2018 was Halloween. It was an enjoyable, entertaining, suspenseful piece of cinema. It was the first Michael Myers sequel to be really, really good and feel like it was actually harkening back to Carpenter's original classic. Sure, it doesn't beat out the classic, but you know what? It doesn't have to. It's a sequel. A sequel does not have to be better than the first to be good. It just has to be as enjoyable, as entertaining, as thought-provoking as the original, and this did it. The final climax was truly epic in its atmosphere. Jamie Lee Curtis did a wonderful job bringing Laurie Strode back to character after 40 years, as you really felt that she was believable, that this is where the character would go with her post-traumatic stress syndrome, compared to what they did with H2O. Michael Myers was incredible. Just like the original, the movie didn't go overboard in its violence. Yes, it did have some violent scenes, but it kept it to a minimum to really mimic what occurred in the original, just like that. And then the cinematography was gorgeous, especially this out scene when Michael is just walking through the city and the camera's just following him from behind as if it's like a video game. Very well done. Yes, the movie does have some flaws, but every movie on this list has flaws. There's no such thing as a perfect movie. Thus, I decided I wasn't going to base the flaws on my choice for number one. I went with the movie that I enjoyed the most, that I thought about the most after I saw it, and the movie I'm going to be looking forward to rewatching the most, and will probably be rewatching the most. With that said, that is my list for the best movies of 2018, or my favorite movies of 2018, depending how you want to look at it, since I'm sure some of you are like, Halloween, number one? What the hell is wrong with you? That was not the best movie of the year. Well, I don't care. It's my favorite movie of the year. If you don't like it, too bad. But nevertheless, tell me in the comments below what your favorite movie of 2018 was. What do you think was the best? What do you think was the worst? And check out my worst list as soon as I have it up. Until next time, bye.